Oh, what a crazy week. Let's get started. Hi and welcome. Am I looking at the right spot? Yes, I am. There we go. Hi, welcome to Just One More Thing. I'm your host, Janessa, and this is a podcast about knitting and crafting. And like the second I sat down, everything just went out of my mind. So, and I don't do notes before I do the podcast, I do them after. Which is why my notes are so crazy accurate all the time. Because I make them as I rewatch. Anyway, I'm rambling while I try to think about what I need to talk to you guys about today. Hopefully it's not too short. We'll see. Okay, let's get started for real. Hi. I have a nearly finished object. And when I say nearly, I mean like all I have left to do is block it. So it's pretty much finished, but then I also have to put tassels on. And I've been waffling. Where did I put my tassels? Oh, my tassels are over here. That's 2 of them. Hi, how are you? 3 of them. Okay, now I'm ready to go. So, I bound off the coffee shop wrap. So, all of my ends are woven in. Tassels are made. But I haven't blocked it yet, and I haven't put the tassels on. So, one of the reasons that I haven't put the tassels on yet is because I decided that I want to make like a loop tassel, so I can just kind of like thread it through itself. Does that make sense? Like, you know, you have the loop and then you put it back through itself and kind of make it like almost a slip knot with it. That way, if the recipient doesn't like the tassels, they can easily be taken off. Does that make sense? So I need to put like another loop through here to hold them on. Because if I tie this into a loop, then there'll be like a weird knot and I can't like flip it around and put the knot inside there. Does that make sense? Does any of it make sense? I don't know. You guys know what I mean. I want it to look nice and neat. So yeah, the tassels still have to be put on and it still has to be blocked. And you guys might be thinking to yourself, whoa, wait, hold on a second. Didn't you just start that last week? Impressed? So, as you can tell, it's all garter stitch. And really the only patterning comes when you change colors and you put in that little eyelet row. This shawl was so crazy mindless to knit that I actually was able to read while I knit. And here comes kids in the door. Is it lunchtime yet? No. I'm still recording. I'll let you know when I'm done. I probably won't even bother to edit that out. Because I don't have time today. The reason I'm a day late podcasting is because I really wanted to finish this last night, which I did. I wanted to have it all like nice and blocked and wearable. That wasn't going to happen. So I'll show you pictures of that next week on the podcast. Sorry, my children are distracting me. They want to come inside, but I won't let them. So yeah, I was able to read and knit while I was doing this. It was that mindless, and so it just like flew off the needles. Also, it only was like 2 skeins of the yarn, which was the sweet roll from Premier Yarns. And they are, what does it say? Ah, here it is. They're only like 245 yards. So, 400 yards of worsted weight, like, that wasn't going to take a whole lot of time. It does get me 448 meters closer to my stash goal, because I used every little bit of those 2 cakes of yarn. So yeah, super fast knit, super easy, really enjoyable. I think once I get it like blocked out and kind of open everything up, I'll like it a lot more. I kind of want to make one for myself. Just so that I have another excuse to sit down with something that's that mindless that I can read to. What was I reading, you ask? Harry Potter. I have been going through all the Harry Potter books again, mainly because I was trying to get Brooklyn interested in Harry Potter, and she barely made it through the first book before she was like, I don't know, Mom, I don't really like this. And I was like, what? I was a little heartbroken that my daughter didn't love Harry Potter as much as I love Harry Potter, but what can you do? Anyway, so I keep trying to make her read it. One of these days, she's gonna love it. So that's that shell done. I'm gonna block it today if it doesn't rain. Put tassels on it. And probably try to find yarn to make another one for me. Just because I want one for me. This was the Coffee Shop Wrap by Two of Wands. And it was a free pattern. You can find it on Ravelry, or you can find it on her, I think she has like a blog, I think is where the Ravelry store like ends up taking you to in order to download it. I could be wrong. I haven't checked. If I'm really wrong, like, I'll put a note down below of where you can like actually find it. Pardon my reaching. I feel like I'm sitting down really low today. Okay, sit up a little taller. There we go. Next up, I'm going to talk about fading. I did a little bit of work on my Free Your Fade, not enough for me to like drag it out and show it to you and risk sliding everything off the needles, because it was like 2 rows of progress since I showed it to you last week. But as I was searching on Ravelry, I saw that Andrea Mary, who is doing the like Free Your Fade, Find Your Fade, So Faded, all the faded patterns that are so popular right now, she's doing a mystery fade along. And I am so tempted. It's like $4 for the pattern right now. So it's like a super cheap pattern. The only thing holding me back is that it's 6 skeins of yarn. So I'd have to do quite a bit of stash diving to find 6 skeins worth of yarn that will fade together. That would be a pretty big stash dive to have to do that with. I would have until August 31st, so I'd have a whole month to like find something. Maybe you want to find something. The other thing that's holding me back though is that there's a brioche involved, and I've never brioached before. Never. I've watched videos on how to brioche. I have sent those videos to other people who are having trouble brioching, saying, hey, this might help. It looks like something that works. I've never done it. I can't give any, I give advice on it, but I've never done it. I've never done brioche, and do I want to invest 6 skeins of yarn into a pattern that I don't know if I'm gonna like it or not? I don't know. Do I? Help me out. Just tell me what you would do. if you have never done brioche before, if you don't know what brioche is, look up brioche on YouTube and you'll see videos. And look up like all the Stephen West patterns. He loves brioche. It has a pretty effect, and I can see where doing that plus a fade would be pretty interesting. I don't know. I can't decide. Help me decide. Okay. Should I mystery fade along with Andrea Mowry? Alright, so moving on to actual knitting and not angsting about knitting. Do you remember way back in like episodes 1 and 2, maybe even 3, if you're new and you haven't seen the back episodes, go watch the back episodes. Maybe not episode 2. Apparently 2 is where I lost everybody. Go back and watch episode 1 and 3. I got a little too serious in episode 2, I think. Okay. So, if you remember all the way back there, you will remember that I had spun some buffalo fiber that my mom bought me at Estes Wool Festival way back in like 2010. Maybe it was 2012. Yeah, it would have been, no, maybe it was 2010. I can't remember how old Brooklyn was. Brooklyn was born, but Emerson wasn't. So it was before 2011 and after, so maybe it was 2010. Anyway, I'm rambling again. She bought me this fiber that I spun into yarn, and I showed it to you all on the podcast like way back when I started. And she bought me this fiber with the intent that I would spin it and make her a vest, more like a sleeveless cardigan is what it came down to. We even bought a pattern while we were there, and I lost it. I don't know where it is. So while we were visiting her over last month, I had her, I made her sit down in front of Ravelry, and I made her search for a pattern. And we were really having a problem because we were searching for vests. And she couldn't find any vests that she wanted, because a vest is really typically kind of, fitted, or like almost a sleeveless sweater type thing. So she just couldn't find one that she wanted. And I said, well, tell me what you're wanting. And when she described it, I'm like, okay, she wants a cardigan. She just doesn't want sleeves. And I was like, well, let's look at cardigan patterns. And I can always just not knit the sleeves. Like every knitter's dream, right? I'm making a sweater. I just don't have to knit the sleeves. So we found one, and you'll never guess who designed the pattern. It was a Joey Locatella pattern. And I just laughed. I was like, Mom, this is like my favorite designer ever, and I've knit all of her things. Well, I want to knit all of her things. They're all in my queue. So I was kind of, it was just kind of funny that she picked my favorite designer to knit her pattern. Anyway, I swatched because we picked out the Meridian. So, like a good knitter, sidebar, I have knit more swatches this year than I have like in all of my 15 years of knitting. This is 2017 is the year I finally learned the value of a swatch. I still haven't really gotten the whole math thing down about changing gauge though, which you'll see in a second. So this is the 34 rows, 28 stitches or whatever in the stockinette. That's supposed to be 4 inches. This is more than 4 inches. I'd show you with my ruler, but it's holding up the iPad. So just trust me, this is much more than 4 inches. So I knew looking at the pattern, the yarn that was called for, the needles that were called for, the gauge was going to be different, because the pattern calls for like a really light fingering, maybe even a lace, and like, I want to say it's like 2 needles or something, like really small needles. And I am using 5s, And and my yarn's thicker. It's more of a sport weight, we're gonna call it. So I kind of fiddled around with the numbers, and I thought I got what I needed in order to get an approximation of, you know, gauge. I did not. I started knitting. It's actually a really, oh, that's my, it's like, oh, what's that? It's what I'm using to cable with. It's actually a very fun pattern to knit. Pardon all the messy stitch markers. That's where I was marking short rows. So it's got like different textured panels. It's got a reversible cable, which is fun. And then this stockinette panel. So the idea is that this is basically like a skirt or a flounce. And this is the part that attaches to the back, and this is the part that hangs down, and it makes like a big circle. I'm not going to give too much away because it's a painful pattern. I have to be able to get to 44.5 inches measured along this short side. I was like, okay, we can do that. But then it started getting like, it's really long. And I was like, well, maybe it's supposed to be that long because of the way that the construction. So I kind of just kept going, but I got this is 2 repeats of the flounce. And that's how much I have. That's like maybe 4.5 inches. You know, maybe like 5 if you stretch it out. This is all the yarn I got. So I was like panicking. Like I'm nearly entirely through the first skein of yarn. So I'm a third of the way through my yarn and I'm nowhere near, like, there's no way that the next 2 balls of yarn are going to get me to 44.5 inches. So I was like, something's off. My math, my numbers, I did not calculate this right. And so I looked back at the schematic and I'm like, well, maybe the number that I used for how long this should be is not how long this should be. So, I asked on her forum and I still haven't gotten an answer. So I'm going to have to like tag somebody because it's an old thread. But, I kind of like, Brooklyn's about the same size as my mom. So I held this up against Brooklyn. I was like, yeah, that's way too long. So long story short, I'm going to have to rip all this out and recast on, and I'm going to have to like shorten the sections up. Basically, like I can take quite a few stitches out of this section, and I think like leave the numbers alone for these sections. I can maybe take a little bit out of this and a little bit out of this and still get by. Shaping wise, because that's the problem when you're switching gauge, is that like all your ratios change. So we're gonna play around with it. I'm gonna have to rip it out and start over again, cast on a smaller number. So this will be an adventure. Stick around, see what happens. Does the meridian ever get knit, or do I just constantly keep ripping it out and starting over again? I don't know. It's going to be a fun pattern once I get it done, and I think it's going to be really pretty, and I love how it knit up in that yarn. I absolutely adore how this knit. This is all like a washed and blocked swatch. So I'm really happy with how that's turning out. Really happy. I gotta be better at it's one of those like, the math is so simple, oh yeah, I got it right. Like I'm a little overconfident when it comes to changing patterns and gauge, unfortunately. So, anyway, on to spinning. Okay, so I have started on the second half of the Falkland as I make a mess of this here. Ah. Okay. Okay. So I started the second half of the Falkland that I got from Once Upon a Corgi in the Hedwig colorway. This was the first half. So I've got quite a ways to go, as you can tell. Really happy with how this is spinning up. I'm going to do another 2-ply. Kind of like I did with that Into the World yarn. This is what I have left. This is like the main braid that it came in. And basically what I'm doing is I'm hanging about like that much off the braid and splitting it out, and then kind of drafting it just a little bit, just to kind of break up the the color splotches, so that my color ends up really subtle. It doesn't look subtle in that, but when I get it plied, I think it'll be a really nice subtle color. So yeah, just kind of spinning along on that. I kind of want to get it done this week, but that would mean that like I have to give up knitting and just spin. This is taking me a while to do. So who knows what'll happen with that, but it's coming along anyway. Yeah, so that's what I've been working on this week. Hopefully the Glamour Up gets some work this week and I can sit down and stop reading while I knit because I'm just about done with the book, and get back to doing my Free or Fade and work out the numbers on the meridian so I can get that done, because I want to have that done for her by Christmas. That's my goal. Also, we have started our back to school routine to get the kids in the swing of things for school at the end of the month. Yay! School starts at the end of the month. Getting the kids to bed last night. My goal is to have them in bed by 8:30 so that they're like asleep by 9. That would be good for them. Or at least for Brooklyn. Emerson's better about falling asleep quick. Brooklyn needs time to like relax at the end of the day and shut off her little preteen mind and go to sleep. So as long as I can get her like in bed and to sleep by 9, she's usually pretty good the next day, school-wise. So last night I was like, 8 o'clock, let's start getting ready for bed. It took like an hour to give 2 kids baths. Like, why does it take them so long to get in a bath and get clean? It doesn't take that long to take a shower. So we got to work on our bedtime routine. Like, it would be such a pain to have to move it up to like 7:30 or something like that. That seems a really odd time to start taking baths, but apparently with 2 kids, and I don't know. What's your guys' bedtime routine like? I'd love to know, with like if you have little ones, like school-age kids. Like, how early do they have to start getting ready before they actually go to bed? Because it seems like mine take forever. Anyway, I'm gonna let you go because I do kind of have a busy day ahead, so I can't sit here and yammer for too long. But thank you so much for stopping by and spending some of your knitting time with me. I enjoy talking about it, and all of my angstiness this week. It's like you're my therapy for my knitting. I love it. So I do appreciate you stopping by. If you enjoyed the episode, give me a thumbs up. If you have advice for me about whether or not I should brioche, or maybe you have like a really good tutorial out there somewhere on how to change gauge, and not just like on square things, because the only tutorials I found on changing gauge were for like a square thing. Like I don't know, they were aggravating a little bit. So yeah, if somebody like has some really good advice on how to change gauge in a sweater, maybe there's a crafty class and I just didn't find it, I don't know, I'd love that information. So leave a comment either here on YouTube, or you can comment over on Facebook on Ravelry, and definitely share this with a friend so that they can join in on my knitting adventures and help me as well. Anyway, we will talk to you later. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you soon.